I can't think of many things that are worthwhile in life that aren't costly. And the very centre of our lives are relationships. And have you noticed that relationships are always costly? What does it cost to be a friend, being alongside someone when they are in crisis, when there are other things you could be doing or should be doing that you need to put aside for your friend in crisis? And when things go wrong in your friendship, hanging in there when things go wrong and you're not just quite getting on with each other. Friendships are costly, aren't they? But the gift of friendship. What does it cost to be a parent? I'm looking around at numerous parents in front of me. What does it cost to be a parent? It costs everything. But the privilege, the joy. And what does it cost to be a disciple of Jesus? What is it costing you to be a disciple of Jesus? Mark's Gospel, Mark's book, where he sets out what he thinks is the best news you will ever hear concerning Jesus. Mark is a really straightforward writer, and he simply wants you to know three things. He wants you to know who Jesus is, why he came, and what it means to follow him. Why does he want you to know this? So that you are captivated by him. So that you count the cost and still follow him. Levi, the tax collector, you can see my first heading. Following Jesus, leaving everything and gaining eternity. Verse 13, once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booths. "Follow me," Jesus told him. And Levi got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. Christmas Day this year, sorry to mention Christmas already, Christmas Day this year, you have a spare place at your lunch table. Who might you invite? You think about the people in your street who might be alone on Christmas morning. There is helpful Hugh, who is so active in our community. Then there is addicted Alf, who has just made bad choice after bad choice, and he is now addicted to cocaine. Half the time he is out of it, the other half of his time he is looking to crime to fund his habit. Oh, and then there's drug dealer Darren, a big-time dealer, a loan shark, and rumour has it that he runs a brothel on the other side of Stoke. Who will you invite to be with your family on Christmas Day? Well, really, you don't want to invite any of them, but possibly you will invite helpful Hugh. If you're really, really kind, you may invite addicted Alf. But the thought of inviting drug dealer Darren, the loan shark, the pimp, into your home with your family simply leaves you cold. And yet that is pretty much what we see in Mark chapter 2. Levi was a tax collector, and we smile because none of us particularly enjoy paying taxes. But in our countries, we understand tax, don't we? In our country, we understand that the NHS, the public sector, our schools need funding by taxation. So we grudgingly, we pay it. But tax collectors in Galilee 2,000 years ago were completely different. Israel was not ruled by Israel. Yes, there were puppet kings like Herod, but the Jewish people's promised land had been invaded by the Roman Empire, and the invaders were taking their money as well. It seems that Levi has a little booth set up by the side of the lake, and it would seem that he would tax the fishermen on a daily basis according to their catch. But the deal was, Rome said to the tax collectors, we want so much off you per day, and any more you get is yours. We don't care how much or how you prize money out of other people. And here's the clever thing about this system. People like Levi were locals. So they knew what was going on. They knew where the money was to be got. So Second World War occupied France. Collaborators working for the Nazis and abusing their neighbours for personal gain. That's Levi. But even worse, Levi was not just seen as morally corrupt, he was seen as spiritually corrupt. This was God's land, God's people he was swindling. No, Levi wasn't a dealer, a loan shark, a pimp. He was far worse than that. He was a corrupt tax collector for the nation's enemy, God's enemy. He was a traitor. What does Jesus say to Levi? Levi, leave what you're doing. Leave your alliance with Rome. Leave your lucrative job and the associated lifestyle, and instead follow me. And Levi left everything. But Mark hints to us how Levi was to gain everything. He gives us this little illustration of not just a transformed life, but of a transformed eternity. We next see him eating with Jesus, dining with Jesus, feasting with Jesus. We all know the significance of eating together. We don't have Christmas lunch together because we're hungry, although by then we usually are. But that's not why we do Christmas lunch. Our PCC, our church council, we ate together a few weeks ago. Why did we do that? Not because I was concerned that anyone was looking particularly malnourished. No, we eat with people because we want to build friendship with each other. That's why we eat with each other. That's why Jesus was always having meals with people. That's why heaven in the Bible, again and again and again and again, is pictured as a banquet. That's why on a Sunday we do this token meal together that we call the Lord's Supper. That's why we invite one another into each other's houses for coffee on a Sunday, midweek. That's why we go to Trentham and meet each other for coffee. Follow me, says Jesus. Stop what you are doing. Reverse the direction of your life. Leave everything and gain eternity. And suddenly, Levi was not an enemy of God, rather he was a friend. Suddenly, Levi was intimate with God himself. Suddenly, Levi had a future, an eternal future. The cost to Levi of a relationship with Jesus, it cost him everything. But through it, he gained eternity. But here's the problem in this story. My second heading, the fatal combination, heart disease and blindness. Verse 16, when the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? On hearing this, Jesus said to them, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but those who are ill. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. The Pharisees. I know we all go back to our Sunday school days, and the Pharisees come on dressed in black and we all hiss. We need to be careful with that. Because the Pharisees, they were Jewish leaders who were intent on living out God's ways. And they would have known that drug dealing and extorting money and luring women into prostitution was evil and wrong. They would have known that what the tax collectors were doing was wrong. And you can see that they just didn't get it. Why is Jesus meeting up with these people for dinner? Not helpful Hugh or even addicted Alf, but evil Darren, evil Levi and all their mates. It's drummed into us, isn't it? There are certain people we keep away from. We have nothing to do with. We drum that into our children. The religious leaders, they are incensed, and we can see why. Jesus is undermining their teaching completely. And as time goes on, they are increasingly infuriated with Jesus. And very soon indeed, they will start to plot to kill Jesus. And within 3 years, they, along with others, will finally murder the Son of God. And so it's with deep irony, Jesus says, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but those who are ill. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. I haven't come for perfect people, for righteous people. I've come for sick people. Sick people like Levi, to rescue them totally. I haven't come for the righteous. Were the Pharisees righteous? Well, they thought they were. But they show by their raging hatred of Jesus that deep within them they were a cesspit. They were blind to their own sickness. Later in Mark, Jesus refers to the problem of the human heart, not the organ that pumps blood, but picture language, the heart of our being, who we are. The Pharisees had a heart problem, and they were totally blind to it. The Pharisees disturb me. The Pharisees increasingly disturb me. I think the Pharisees are meant to disturb me, because they reveal to me a method of dealing with my own sickness that is very appealing. If you look inside yourself and you don't like what you see, they had discovered what we've all discovered, which is if you stop looking at yourself and the stuff inside you don't want to see, and start looking at others, and if you look at others long enough, you can spot their faults. And it always works even better if you exaggerate the faults of others, if you imagine the faults of others. And that's a great thing to do, isn't it? Because suddenly I can think, hey, I'm not that bad. And when I look down on others, that gives me the moral high ground. I feel higher up. I'm not so bad after all. Moral outrage is wonderful, because it deflects me from my own faults, leaving me to enjoy the fact that I'm better than others. No, Mr. Pharisee, Levi was a moral disaster, a spiritual disaster, That's why I've come, says Jesus, for sick people, for spiritually sick people who know they need a doctor. I have come to take on myself the consequences, the penalty for their disastrous decisions. I've come to call them to leave behind their present lifestyle to follow me. And I will gift them the most priceless, the most life-changing thing in the world. I will gift them a close relationship with me, the God who made them. I will give the Levis who want to follow me, the Darrens who want to follow me, I will give the completely undeserving who want to follow me a clean slate, a new start, a new life. But Mr. Pharisee, what about you? What about your denial that there's anything wrong deep within you? What about the sickness of your heart that you are hiding, that you're convincing yourself isn't there? That you're demonstrating is there by your looking down on others so you can boost yourself up? Mr. Pharisee, I came for sick people, but people who think they're righteous, I can't do anything for. Because when I say, follow me, you say, well, only on my terms. Follow me. Leave behind. Leave behind your conviction that you're doing all right, really. Leave behind your conviction that you don't need me that much. Leave behind your self-sufficiency. Your heart disease, I've come to sort. But if you can't see it, if you're blind to it, following Jesus, leaving everything and gaining eternity, the fatal combination, heart disease and blindness. But thirdly, recipients of mercy are people of mercy. One thing Mark doesn't tell us here, but we know from elsewhere, is that Levi later had his name changed by Jesus to Matthew. Jesus changed his identity in every way. Despicable Levi. Who would have thought that he would become Matthew the Apostle? The writer of the Gospel of Matthew. Who would have thought despicable Levi would become the Bible writer that would be, I don't think this is any exaggeration, who would be read by billions? Who would have thought? Levi, who became Matthew, who received undeserved mercy from Jesus and became a person of mercy, someone caught up with making disciples of all nations, someone intent on the world hearing and experiencing the mercy of Jesus. How would Levi have started to look at other tax collectors? Well, we even get a hint here, don't we? Did he now start to look down on the other tax collectors as the Pharisees did? Did he start to look down on his fellow tax collectors? No, he invited them to meet Jesus, to have dinner with Jesus, to follow Jesus, to receive the same call and transformation that he had received from Jesus. Do I need God's mercy? Well, I know I say I do. But to what extent am I using the same tactics as the Pharisees? Do I find myself looking down on other people? Well, I know I'm not perfect, but at least I don't do that. Within our church circle. Well, I know I'm not a perfect disciple, but at least I'm not doing what Annabelle, who sits over there when she comes, what she's doing or not doing. The Pharisees had different symptoms of their sinfulness to that of Levi, but they needed Jesus just as much as Levi did. I may have different symptoms of my sinfulness to those of the drug dealer, the loan shark, the pimp. But I need Jesus just as much as they do. Jesus says to all of us, follow me. The cost of following Jesus? Ditching all that I know in my lifestyle, my thinking, my allegiances that are at odds with the gospel. My giving up everything, but to gain eternity, a relationship with Jesus, my past dealt with, my future secure, my present being gradually transformed. And suddenly, to my astonishment, I find that having received the mercy of Jesus, I'm showing the mercy of Jesus, even to those that I'm tempted to look down on.